Good morning, y'all. It's your boy Joe Locker. We're live at the Filter Coffee Parlor right here on the south side in Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you for being the sponsor of Coffees and Conversation with who? Your boy Joe Locker. Hey, man, today I got a great show lined up for you guys, man. I am super excited. Super excited. I got one of my dearest friends that y'all hear me talking about him all the time. I'll mention his names a plethora of times on this show, on my other shows. Y'all hear me talking about the guy who got me in radio, who gave me my opportunity to get to daytime radio. The one and only Michael Hart is on the show today. He's in the building. But before I get to my good friend and the great conversation we're going to have over coffee today, have you grabbed your coffee? You got your coffee, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to grab your coffee because this is going to be a great conversation about a plethora of different things. I never asked Michael Hart this. How did he get into radio? I've been knowing him all these years, but I don't know actually how he got started into radio. So I'm going to find those things out. And I want to know, is my good friend, is he dating? What has he been up to? Because he haven't been on the radio lately. Because I've seen his post. He said he's a former radio talk show host. So we're going to get into that and find out what the one and only. And if you're a Michael Hart fan, make sure you share this video out there to all his friends and his fans, because he still have a huge fan base. Share it out there with him, y'all, because he's in the building. But I want to talk to everybody really quickly about the things that's been going on here in Birmingham. I was very quiet. Interviewed quite a few candidates over the last few months. And congratulations to the people who won last night. I just want to say this here from me, y'all. Y'all know I love this city. I love y'all. But I want to make sure that now it's time to get back to business. And we have to watch the tone that we speak to one another with when we're running for office. And that just goes for everybody in between, because one thing I think people don't think about, that I have to see you in the grocery store, at church, or walking down the street. And now some of the things that were said and done through this last campaign, it's going to be tough for some people to do that. So I'm wishing healing over our city. I'm wishing forgiveness for everybody that things were said and done. And hopefully we can move past this and work with the new candidates that are in office right now. Congratulations to everybody. I'm here to support it any way I can. Congratulations to the people that won and people that's in the runoff. Congratulations to you for getting to the runoff, and wishing you the best of luck in the next election for what you guys got going on. So Birmingham City, we love you and we're here for you, okay? But with all that being said, y'all, this is Coffee and Conversation. You know, we bring you some of the best conversations over coffee and the best guests in the world. That's what we do. I'm your boy, Joe Lockett. This guy here, when I first met him, I could have sworn he didn't like me. When I first got to the radio station, I would only go up and pay my bill because I had a show on the weekends. And I would see the guy, so I have to go in the daytime to go pay my bill. For the show that I did on the weekend. And so I would walk in, it's about 9 o'clock, I think about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, while he was probably doing the show. I would see him walking outside to either go smoke a cigarette or grab some coffee, right? So I walked past him, and you hear somebody's voice on the radio, but you never put a face to it. And so I walked past him a couple times, but I didn't know who he was. And then I heard somebody say Michael Hart. And my heart jumped, like, oh, that's Michael Hart, right? And I spoke to him. I don't know if he heard me or not, but I spoke to him the first time. He was like, just walked on outside, right? And so the second time I saw him, I got a chance to see him. I said, good morning, Michael Hart. Morning. And I'm like, this guy do not like me, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and bring my friend Michael in because it's so much history that we have together. And I owe a lot of my career to this guy actually opening the door for me. The one and only, y'all. Y'all know him as the Michael Hart. Welcome to the show, Michael.
How are you, Joe?
My man, how you going?
Just to set the record straight, when I first met you, I didn't like you.
You didn't even know me.
No, I didn't.
You had no idea who I was.
Well, you know.
Do you remember when you first, do you remember the first time you saw me?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, up at Crawford.
Okay.
And I used to kid all the time when, we would share a lot of microphones, a lot of different hosts up there. Lee Davis was another one of our good friends. I used to kid with Lee all the time when we were doing radio together. And I made a comment to him one time because he asked for permission to speak. He was on my show. And I made the comment, I said, Lee, the more you talk, the less I work.
You always say that,
so to that point, it almost got to the area where, when you spoke to me in the early days, first off, I'm relatively a shy person. A lot of people don't believe that. But in addition to that, I'm like, this guy's not paying me to have a conversation. I'm off the air. I'm going home.
So that's what it was.
Yeah. In the early days. But of course, I came to not only respect you, but to love you.
But you wasn't going home, Michael. You was going out for break.
I was going somewhere.
You was going. It was in between shows.
Yeah. Well, I was going somewhere.
So let me say this, man. I always tell you this. You always tell me I don't have to. Thank you for everything that you allowed me to do. And for people who've watching the show for the first time or know our story, I had my show on the weekends, and I was trying to get into daytime radio. And you opened the door for me. But before I get into all that good stuff, Michael, how the hell did you get into radio?
Actually, really similar to you as well. And many, I'm a contractor by trade. You've got a background that as well. And some years ago, in addition to being in the contracting business, I started speaking in a lot of seminars, primarily related to marketing, public relations skills, and a few other things for contractors. And I traveled all over the country and Canada and Puerto Rico and places like that. Then the September 11 attacks occurred. Okay. And the seminar industry just vanished overnight. Okay. I was returning deposits, the whole 9 yards. Well, I gravitated back towards just doing full-time contracting. And I had been behind so many microphones over the years, live stages, and I really wanted to experiment with that again. Didn't want to leave Birmingham. People weren't flying. And so I decided I was going to try to get on the air. And I called a friend of mine, you might know locally, named Mark Spud Friedman. Yeah. And Mark and I had lunch at Brio. And he said, the easiest way to get in radio, Michael, is just to buy your time, literally to buy your way in. And I started a radio program called the Success Radio Network. And it was on, WAPI 1070 in Birmingham. And, right down the road where all the stations are. And I did that for several years. Eventually, buying your own time and dealing with the advertisers and whatnot got very, very, very old. And so I dropped out of that. And then some years later, I met a guy by the name of Dale Johnson that was in the foundation business. He and I worked together, and which is what I do now for Ox Foundations. And he and I were talking. He's an old disc jockey. And we talked about starting our own radio program. It's called House Studs. And we bought time, again, on 101.1, which back in those days was called The Source. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I met Laura Scotty, the GM of the station. Still keep up with Laura to this day.
Shout out to Laura.
Absolutely begged her to give me an opportunity to get on the air without paying, with actually being an employee of the station. And she finally capitulated. And she was actually our account representative as well. And she gave me a Saturday afternoon radio program. So we did House Studs in the morning and then went back in the afternoon. But when I was signing the contract with her, I said, so what are my hours, or what is my hour? She goes, well, I'm not giving you an hour. I need 4 hours of airtime. Well, as you are well aware, callers on the weekend, particularly in these days, were not plentiful.
On Saturday.
On Saturday. And so here I have 4 hours. The very first guest I ever had, complete debacle, was a lesbian nun. And
wait.
I know.
No, hold on, Mike. I'm not going to let you just iPad it. What?
I did not know what I was doing. Yeah, they was a little guest.
Said a lesbian nun.
That's what I said. I wasn't quite up to speed with her entire story when I asked her to come on. All I knew was that she was, a nun, and she had written some book. And as it turned out, that's what it was about, because I was a novice. I didn't know anything. And so, to make a long story short, eventually I went back to Laura and we had lunch, and I begged her to give me any time on the weekday. They gave me 1 hour in the morning, Monday through Friday, from 7 until 8 o'clock. Steve West was my producer after Charlie Martin had been on Saturday, and it just kind of grew from there. And then 1 hour became 2, 2 became 4. Then Gina Loudon came to town before she went to work for the White House. Yeah. And then you came on the scene after that. But I bought my way in and basically begged my way in. And, and what did. And what's so funny about the very first dry run that Laura allowed Steve and I to do was right around Christmas time. I want to say it was Christmas Eve, where we got 1 hour. And then we went back to her and said, we'd like to do more of that. She said, absolutely not. There's not a chance in hell. I'm letting you guys do it again. Well, a couple of weeks later, she's like, y'all are on the air next week for another hour. And it just kind of grew out of that.
Wow. So what do you think was it that Laura seen in you that allows you to do that 1 hour doing it? Because people don't realize in talk radio, if you get an hour in talk radio, number one is a lot. Because being a disc jockey and a radio talk show host is completely different. You're talking majority of the time. There's no spinning of the records. You only have what 3 breaks.
Yeah.
The top.
Yeah.
And sometimes the bottom, because you just skip that middle, that 15-minute break. So you're talking most of the time. And your job is to make the phones ring or to inform the people on something to have them listening attentively without changing the station so they can hear the commercials. That's your job at the end of the day. What do you think that made you? What were you saying back in the day, Michael, to make her give you 1 more hour?
I was basically pleading. They needed content, and I will tell you one thing that was kind of happenstance that worked in my favor. And you're aware that Crawford Broadcasting is a Christian-oriented company, and very much so. Mr. Crawford is very sincere and devout in his faith. And they had anchored the show in the morning with a guy by the name of Mancow Muller. Well, Mancow was not a fit for this station, and the complaints were flying in. Laura Ingram was after Mancow, and when they figured out that they had a Christian conservative on their hands, and I wasn't polished as a radio presenter, but I was polished as a speaker. And so I was able to kind of push him to the side because he was talking about, you think lesbian nuns are bad? Oh God, every day of the week, it was something very controversial, and it just didn't fit the Crawford pro forma. So it kind of grew out of that, but it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of misfirings. And it just kind of grew over time. And then also, just like as often happens in any line of work, Laura and I became friends. We stay up with each other. I literally talk to her 5 times a week.
Okay.
And me and her and Gina and a few of the old folks from back in the day. So we became good friends, legitimate friends. And that kind of helped propel my career along as well. There was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of management changes, a lot of programming changes, a lot of time slot changes. Yeah. But that's just part and parcel.
That's radio, though, or TV.
It is.
Yeah.
But until Crawford released the entire format 12, 13 years later, I had never been fired from a radio job. So I have kind of that little feather in my cap. Right. Now, whether or not that means I was that good or they were that lazy, I don't know. But I always appreciated that they gave me all the opportunities. Mr. Crawford left me alone, never told me what to say, what not to say.
That's one thing about them,
yeah. And Laura was very much the same way.
Unless you stepped across the line, you would get a phone call.
The only phone call I ever got was when, believe it or not, one of Dave Ramsey's producers was listening to me and thought that I had said something very derogatory about Dave Ramsey. Some guy named Mike that's on this radio station. Well, at the time, there was he was a talker out of Texas, and he came on Saturday mornings, and I forgot his name all of a sudden, but he's the one that had said it. They dressed me down about insulting Dave Ramsey until they realized when they pulled the tapes that it wasn't me at all. That's the only confrontation I ever had with management there.
Cool. I haven't talked to, I want to go here with you. So Mike, were you born here in Birmingham, Alabama?
No, I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, but I've been down here 58 years.
Tell me your story. So you born in Baltimore, Maryland, went to school there, mom, dad?
I went to first grade at a Catholic school. I was raised Catholic, and my father was promoted.
You were Catholic? You Catholic?
Yeah.
Mr. Jailhouse Rock?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm ready for this story, so go ahead.
My mom's from New York. I tell people all the time, I'm a New York German and Irish Catholic. Bring it. That's why you and I always got along so well.
Okay.
Not because I'm Catholic, but because
definitely not.
I'm not. Let me tell you something. Thanksgivings in our home sometimes involved light weapons and flying plates. That's why I was so well suited to get on the air and do battle with people.
Right.
So anyway, no, he was transferred down here when I was 7 years old, and I figured, hey, Dad's leaving town, I might as well go with him.
So your mom and dad divorced?
Oh yeah, they divorced many years ago. And I was 17 years old. Okay. And my dad literally moved 4 houses down on the same street to be near his kids. I refused to really have a whole lot between the two of them because they were doing battle all the time. And then my mother brought me in the house one day and she said, "I just want to tell you something. I'm getting remarried, and so was your father." And I said,
at the same time?
To the same people, to each other. So my parents have been married twice.
Okay.
And yeah. And I told them there's not a chance in the world I am going to your wedding. And I didn't. They got remarried, stayed married for 2 more years. The whole time they lived together actually for a while. Didn't fight at all. They got remarried. They were divorced again in a year.
Brothers and sisters?
I have 2 sisters, 1 brother. My sisters, and I've mentioned this on the air several times, very liberal. I get along very well with my youngest sister, who was an attorney in the Obama administration under Loretta Lynch, and Eric Holder for that matter. My other sister is a psychologist, child psychologist, and my brother is a contractor as well.
Okay. Good relationship with your brothers?
Yeah, pretty much so. You know, we have our ups and downs. And with my oldest sister, who is a Johns Hopkins liberal, why you got to keep using the word liberal? She's just a sister, Michael. Oh yeah, Michael. We're not going to do this. No, we're not talking left leaning Democrat. We're talking about. Never mind. See, that was one. Michael, we're not doing this today. Okay, she's your sister. Period. Yeah, she's just your sister. We'll go with that for today. This is being recorded. This is live. Oh no, I'm calling you out on that. This is live. Fine, sister, loving. No, we're not going there. You don't love your sister? Oh, I love her just fine. I love her just fine. Not an answer, Michael. Look, you know, all siblings, or a lot of siblings have their issues. Y'all see why we got so great together on here? Well, you know something. When you were doing the TV program Outspoken some years ago, we had a discussion where we had decided that, you know, you're conservative and I'm conservative, but I'm kind of conservative right, you're conservative left. Right. And so we're kind of doing this thing. Yeah. And so we've never really had an issue with that. We've never deviated. My ex-wife is also a Democrat, and I was married to her for 25 years. It just never crept into our relationship, and we let it go. So at what age did you get married? God, math. 26, 27. Okay. What did you meet your wife at? Your ex-wife. I was managing a chain of yogurt shops here in Birmingham called Freshens. We had 5 or 6 locations in town, and the people that owned Freshens were out of Atlanta, and they hired a woman by the name of Donna Fleischman, who owned a company called Fleischman and Dorico. Donna was actually Bear Bryant's publicist. In fact, there's a picture of her daughter Marissa sitting on Bear's lap many, many years ago. But they sent this scrawny little 4'11", 90-pound waif named Becky to Birmingham to run our PR campaign. And I chased her back to Atlanta and then married her 9 months later. We were together for 25 years and had 3 kids. Wow. That's a loving story. She divorced you, didn't she? Why? Why, Lord? She divorced you, didn't she? Let's just put it this way. The friction was mutual. But I will tell you, who filed for the divorce, Michael? I filed originally, but then she came back out, and it got kind of heated. But I mean, we'd had our issues for some time. And what is kind of funny is, and this is related, believe it or not, this comes full circle back to the radio station. Okay, I'm on the air. Okay, and we were always very aware of who was in the parking lot because at the radio station, we're always getting death threats and weird stuff like that. That's why they put the bulletproof glass. That's why bulletproof glass. But that was because of you, wasn't it? Actually, because somebody came up there, somebody came to the radio station because of something you said. Yeah, we came in packing 6 shooters on each hip. Yeah, and it was something you said. You want to hear this story or not? Go ahead. Anyway, you put us in danger, Michael. Well, you got bulletproof glass out of it, didn't you? But anyway, I'm on the air, and we see a car out in the parking lot. It's a pickup truck, actually, far on the other side of the parking lot, pointed back towards the station. I get off the air, and I walk into the front door because it's a security building. A lot of people don't know this, but all broadcast facilities by federal law have to be on constant lockdown. Right. And the theory behind that is if an invading army ever got in, they would automatically seize the broadcast facilities first. So anyway, we were on lockdown. Guy comes to the door, and I push the door open, and he says, "Are you Michael Hart?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "I listen to you every day. I think you're the greatest talk radio host in the world. I really, really, really enjoy it. I was sitting out in the parking lot listening to you." Sticks his hand out and serves you some papers. And serves me the papers. That guy's name was Jeff, and he and I became friends after that. And when it went, and
You got served water. She knew exactly how to get you.
oh my God. Well, it got even weirder after that, because several years after that, I started dating a woman that I referred to in the years TC, and was with TC for 12 years. Well, Jeff and TC worked together. She was in that business. And so a guy that she works with is a guy that serves me my divorce papers 2 years prior.
This coffee sure tastes good, man.
Mm-hmm. Remember back in the old days when we used to put in it.
I'm not going to say anything about that.
But then if you really want to get into a weird radio menage a trois here, if you remember, as a contractor, there was the Chinese drywall scare. Okay. A lot of houses had the Chinese drywall. The gypsum was bad from China, and it stunk. So there was a big lawsuit going around through town, and there was a guy by the name of Gary. And Gary owned a construction company, that was removing all the Chinese drywall in the area. I caught wind of it. Turns out that Gary's attorney was the best friend of a guy that I played golf with and have known for years. And so I said, I'm going to invite the attorney and Gary to come up here. We're going to discuss the Chinese drywall. Well, he comes on the air, and he does a good job explaining the whole thing. And I get off the air, and as soon as I'm off the air, the phone rings, and it's TC. And she says to me on the phone, I just got a call from Gary. Did you just interview my ex-husband? I mean, I can
only you, Michael. Only you. You can't make this up.
You can't.
You can't make this stuff up.
You really can't. And we could do this for hours. There was just a lot of weirdness. But God,
so let me ask you this question. You being in media, I'm being in media. And for people that are watching, because being in media it's a strain, right? Did it have any toll on you as being a father, a husband, a boyfriend?
Luckily for me, the station was very forgiving of my time. And you have to remember that I'm going to work at 4:30 in the morning for the majority of my career. I was also the PM host at one time. And I'm going in at 4:30. I'm a lot of times back at the house at 10:30, 11 o'clock. And so I got to see them a lot anyway. Plus, I also brought my kids to a lot of the events that we did. The very first remote that I ever did was Oak Mountain Amphitheater. And my son Matthew came with me, and he's out handing out flyers and whatnot and putting them in the seats before the crowd gets there. So they spent a lot of time, and they'd also been with me a lot to the radio station when I was on WAPI.
Okay.
And my producer there was a guy by the name of Michael Killer Kelly, and he had a little dog named Sugar. Sugar went with him everywhere. Matthew would come up to the station with me a lot. My oldest daughter, Victoria, always got a real big kick out of bringing guys she was interested in her teenage years into the radio station to see dad work and things like that. So it didn't interfere as much as you might think. And I did only a moderate amount of traveling. So I got to spend a lot of time with my kids, and I incorporated that because, as you're well aware, being in radio is not a job. It's not a career. It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
And I brought them into that lifestyle.
It affected my marriage big time because so much work. Because see, the station, when people don't realize when you buy your time, the station is just selling you time.
Yeah.
That's it. If you don't figure out a way for people to know that you're on air at that time, right? That's on you. You pay that bill at the end of the month, right? And stay within the FCC guide regulation. And that's all the radio station is supposed to do. So for me, it was learning how to do something I didn't know how to do. And then marketing my show, trying to get people to see that this black guy was on a white radio station, right? And why is he on a white radio station, right? Because at that point in time, before I came onto that station, I didn't even know WYDE existed, Crawford Broadcasting existed.
Right. And
I say this all the time when on any of my shows or when the time I talk, right? I owe Mr. Crawford and Nick Hart big time, and Jessica, because those are the people. Mr. Crawford okayed everything at the end of the day, and Laura okayed everything, but Jessica opened up the door for me because she was working secretary at the time, and Nick was the actual guy who actually heard my idea and said, "I have a 6 o'clock at the spot in the morning for you to do that job." But people don't know how much work. And this show here is about, if you're entrepreneurs, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted Michael to come on to this show because we were like the odd couple on radio in the beginning. Because what it turned out, it didn't start out that way at all. Because I had came onto your show I think you had heard me on The Guys. I think,
Probably.
and you saw me in the hallway and you was like, "Hey, why don't you stop by my show one day?" And you invited me in. Or maybe I asked you. I'm not for sure. But either way, it was on a Friday. I would come by on a Friday. And no, I asked you, could I come on to your show? And I would sit there. And you said, well, if you're going to sit there, you're going to speak. Is what you told me, right?
Because the more you talk, the less I work.
The less you work. Yes.
People think that's just words. I'm being.
He was so serious. He was so serious. He would throw a topic at you, right?
I want to get up and leave. Yeah. I'm the guy that goes to the party to have a couple of beers.
Hold on. Look at this person's face right here. I did it to him.
Yeah. Well, he's doing a great job.
He was doing when I was on radio because he's been with me since the latter part of my radio show career, and he was learning. I was teaching him how to do radio, right? And he said he got it. Okay.
Well, it's funny. Steve West and I were on the air one time because he was my producer for a while, but then he became my co-host, or I was his. Either way, however you want to split that. We had a producer. I want to say his name was Dustin. I could have that wrong.
Dustin, yeah, Dustin.
Dustin. Was it Dustin? And Steve and I are on the air, and as you're well aware, the Carver Broadcasting Studio, it's very large. It's very nice. It's almost a conference room. But Dustin makes a comment live on the air about how easy talk radio. All y'all do is talk. This isn't that difficult.
Y'all telling me this story.
Yeah. I could do this. Anybody could do y'all's job. Steve looked at me. I looked at him. We both winked, got up and left. And for 8, 9, 10 minutes, I don't know what to say. What do I say? And we're down the hall screaming at it. Oh, it's so damn easy, isn't it? I mean, it's going out over there. We thought we were going to get fired for saying the D word. But, people don't realize it's tough. It really is.
It is.
And, whether you're talking about the current administration or previous administrations, I don't want to get into all that today, but we're always hearing about, the president's press conference was, an hour long or 90 minutes long or whatever the president is. How in the world do they have these long press conferences and not get tired? Try doing 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and very oftentimes winging it, because as you know as well as I do, there was never any justification for what was making the phone ring.
No.
You could do a program where you bring in a cure for, chronic halitosis and think the phones are going to ring off the hook.
And it don't.
And it doesn't ring at all. One time, Steve West and I started a topic. This is the stupidest thing I think I've ever told anybody. We did 4 solid hours without having to change topics one time of just answering the phone call. And all the question is how do you best season a cast iron pot? We clocked in 112 calls.
I can believe it.
On how to season a pan. The stupidest stuff.
The one thing you taught me, right, and being in radio was people are curious and they love to hear themselves talk.
Oh, yes, they do.
So you have to be able to tap into the minds of what's going to make you want to pick up that phone. Because people don't realize during that time, it's a lot for somebody to pick up their phone, be listening to you, and call in and wait on the phone and still listening to you, right? And want to call in, want to talk to you on that phone, right?
Right.
What makes a person want to go do that? How do you actually get into their psyche to make them want to talk to D. Joe Lockett or D. Michael Hart or Russell or Leland or Andrew McLean, all those guys, right? That's an art. That's an art.
And it is, and it really can't be taught. It's one of those things where you have to say things that are compelling or stupid, or things that just demand an answer. These are the same people that will argue with anybody on Facebook. And I'm not belittling the callers, because I've been a caller before as well. But sometimes people get into these arguments and we just start going back and forth. But what was really the most organic thing that you want to see happen was a caller B calls in the chastised caller A. Then you're just the referee. And you get to be anybody you want to be at that point in time.
Then you can put them both online and let them go at it. Yeah, I love that. If you guys just are locking in right now, it's Coffee Conversation. I'm having the conversation actually today with one of my dearest friends, a brother from another mother. The one and only Michael Hart, book author, former radio talk show host, speaker, entrepreneur. He's in the building, y'all. I'm honored always when I get to share my stage or microphone with this man right here. Mike, when we met and we went through our pleasantries or non-pleasantries, what made you give me the opportunity to host one of the biggest drive time? Because what people need to understand, if you're in drive time, that's the biggest and the most important time in radio. In if whether it's talk radio, whatever, drive time is the most important radio. And those opportunities to get into drive time don't come easy, number one. Right. And number two is somebody off the street just don't get to walk in, sit down behind a microphone and start talking. Right. And I was really somebody off the street that you called in one day and said, hey, you want to do my show? What made you make the phone call to me? That was everybody. That was a whole lot of other people you could have got that was way more well qualified than me, but you called me that day.
Well, I'd heard you on the air and I knew that you had the right delivery. I didn't agree with everything you were talking about against that center right, center left stuff. And you're right. Drive time. People need to realize that when 101 WYDE was on the air as 101.1, we were a 100,000 watt FM station with a tower in Coleman, Alabama. That tower was 300 feet taller, still is, than anything in Russia. And I'm not exaggerating. That signal was powerful. We'd get calls from Arkansas off of that stick. And so the audiences were absolutely massive. But I've told you before, as we opened up today, that I'm big into marketing. And I understood the value. And I hope you take this the right way. I understood the uniqueness of a Black conservative in a very white-dominated market. Not that I necessarily agree with all your conservative beliefs, nor do you in mine, which makes us be so good together on the air. But it's that one of my favorite quotes in business is, Joe, if two partners in business agree on everything, one of them is unnecessary. And you and I had enough disagreements to be compelling. Yes. And that's a lot of times what made people call the program, because you and I never shied away from beating on each other if the moment called for it. And I could have had some other gray hair, which it wasn't great at the time, but some other gray hair white guy who thought exactly like I did, who could, string two syllables together and, get out there and get behind them. But no, I saw something very unique in you. Plus the fact, and this is definitely a compliment, you are an absolute showman. And this line of work takes a lot of noise to get people's attention. One of my very first producers after Steve had gone to do his other show was a girl named Crystal Allman. I'm still friends with her on Facebook. And Crystal's also a Black young lady. And she goes up by the name of Crystal Clear on the air. Okay. And she and I would go to events and she'd be walking through like the downtown, the bridal shower in Birmingham. She's walking through there screaming at the top of her lungs about Michael Hart. Nobody knew who the hell I was back in those days, but she was just that type. Right. There was, I don't know if you ever heard the Two Naked Heads tour. Okay. But it was, oh my gosh, his head, and they went right on my head. Black conservative also, Oh, yeah. I know you're talking about. And his partner was Joe Wurzelbacher, the plumber, Joe the plumber, who's passed away some years ago. Well, Joe the plumber got into it, I think it was with Clinton, if memory serves. Anyway, they're in Coleman or Jasper, doesn't matter. Anyway, I go up there to see these guys speak, and I introduce them, and they're on this little tour. The black ball-headed guy and the white ball-headed guy. Well, Crystal is statuesque, taller than I am, and she's standing to my right, and this old boy that you could probably tell he was a bigot. All right, let's just call it what it is. Crystal looks over at me. She puts her head on my shoulder, and she kind of puts her hand up, and she goes, "Don't move." I said, "What? Don't move." And she slides her arm all the way around me and pulls me into her. It was funny as hell. The look on this guy's face. She lost it and had to leave. It was just that kind of understanding of what the moment called for. Right. Pardon me, I'm sorry. And you've got a lot of that too. Right. You understand what the moment calls for, because there's a lot of great talk radio everywhere. There's a lot of really bad, boring talk radio, and let's just call it for what it is. And you always had the ability to poke the bear just enough to get that phone to ring.
I remember when I got the phone call, I was working on side of the house because I did construction. And you called me and said, "Hey, how'd you like to do my show today?" I honestly thought when you called me, right, it was to come do a show with you. I was like, you remember? I said, okay, sure. You said, no, I want you to do my show. I said, no problem. You said, no, I want you to do the show. I'm not gonna be there today. I said, okay, right. Then I hung up the phone and I called you right back. I don't know if you remember. What do you want me to talk about? And then you said, what did you say, Michael?
Well, what I said, and I'm paraphrasing at that time, was I don't care.
Yeah.
You do your show, but something else, and you might not even recall me saying this, because you asked me one time about why you, and I told you, and I'm going to admit something to you, and I'm going to admit to whoever's listening, that when you're the drive host of a 4-hour talk show on the biggest stick in the state, despite the other stations in town that had similar muscle, you're pretty much the only rooster in the hen house. So I felt like that studio was mine.
Yeah.
Now, this is before other people came on board or whatnot. And I told you one time that one of the reasons I like having you come in was that I trusted you with my microphone.
You did.
Even though I wasn't always going to agree with you, I trusted you with the mic. You weren't going to cuss. You weren't going to say anything stupid. But more importantly, even if I didn't agree with what you were going to say, I knew you had the moxie to back everything up. People used to come to me all the time and ask me about the questions, the topics that I came up with. And I used to always say I never started a topic that I couldn't defend. And I never asked a question I didn't already know the answer to.
You taught me that.
And that was because I would say, this is my topic for today. The one exception to that was how to season a cast iron pan. But this is my topic. And I researched that thing to the hilt, both sides of it.
Yeah.
So I was ready for battle.
One thing I learned working with you and all the great hosts up there was y'all knew that stuff upside down, back and forth. And so I didn't. I knew some. So that's why I would sit back on shows and just listen and get the information about times, when, places, how things got started. And then stuff I didn't know, I'll go back and research it myself. So when I got in there, right, you got to have your perspective. And like you said, you got to stand 10 toes down in your perspective. And I think, once I was able to get in there and learn, I always wanted to do a good job for you.
Right.
When I got on that show and I did that show, I wanted people to know that, yes, I'm here, but I'm sitting on the Michael Hart show. Right. And so I remember when I was driving to the station, I said, how in the hell am I going to do this? Right. Because I'm excited. And I called out my friend, like, listen, I'm going to be on the show today. They're like, you going to be? I said, no. He's letting me do a show. Right. I'm super excited, Mike. I ain't going to lie. Right. And so I'm thinking when I get ready to go to break, like, how am I going to go to break? Because I can't say it's the Joe Lockett show. Right. But how am I going to get my name into saying I'm on the Michael Hart show? Right. So it came to me as I was getting ready to go to break. I said, you guys, hold back. We back in a minute, call into number, blah, blah, blah. Call the station level. I said, you're listening to, I said, you listen to your boy. I said, you listen to Joe Lockett on the Michael Hart show. Right. We'll be right back. So I was able to get my name out there because people don't realize in drive time, like you said, people listen everywhere. If you hear that name.
But did anybody teach you to do that, or did you just figure it out on your own?
I figured it out on my own.
That's why I let you guard my microphone.
I figured it out on my own.
Yeah. Because that's exactly the way it should be done. Yeah. Because it's not your property, it's my property, and I'm loaning it to you.
Right.
And I value that. And I'll tell you, this is going to be something you are probably not going to remember. And I found this picture the other day, and I'll send it to you if you want to see it.
Okay.
You and I are at a conference, and I don't even remember what the heck it was. But we were in suits.
Okay.
And TC was with me. And it wasn't formal, but it was dressy.
Okay.
And it's you and me. And, you remember her. She's a rather attractive woman. And I was going to the bar, the bathroom, somewhere. I don't know. And I looked at you. God, this is going to sound so just completely chauvinistic. And I apologize.
Here we go.
But I looked at you and I said, keep an eye on her. And that was my way of saying, if I'm not around, I'm leaving something very important in your possession.
Right. I do remember that. I mean, honestly, people think that it's a tagline, Michael. When I say a brother from another mother, everything I ever did after that, I always brought you on. Always. Anything I ever did, I've always had you there in some shape, form, or fashion, or we talked about it, right? Because people don't know that, God send people your way
All the
along your
time.
journey.
All the time.
And he don't put color or gender out there. He's just sending people your way. And I have to say for you, there were people who believed in me at Crawford. A lot of people did. But you was the one who, like you said, that was your studio. That was your time slot. I'm going to say 10 out of 10 people are not going to do that. Not, especially to a black guy, Michael. Because they'll be worried that either I'm going to mess it up or I'm going to be able to do something that they can't do. Right? Most people, black people would not allow me to do that. Okay? When I went to the black station, I say this on my show here on Coffees and Conversation. I went to every black station here in Birmingham, Alabama when I first started Shop the Joe Locker Show. Guess how many one station tried to take me?
Well, see, that kind of goes back to the original comment that I made about the uniqueness of your personality. Even in a black-dominated radio market, a black conservative or even a black talker doesn't fit. Because the funny thing is, talk radio it's closely associated, affiliated with Republicanism or being on the right or whatever.
Right.
And so even if you're talking about issues that are specific to the community, people still kind of, they paint it that in that regard. And so, people just don't really understand that there are nuances at play here, because at the end of the day, and this is something that was taught to me by somebody else, is that when you're talking to a microphone, okay, I don't know how many people are listening to this, but I'm talking to you. And in radio, no matter what you're saying, every single person is listening to you, no matter where they are, whether they're Coleman or Montgomery or Huntsville. I was on the air in Albany, New York, and Portland, Oregon, Denver, Santa Barbara. I was on all over the country. But every single person listening to you has got to believe that you were talking directly to them. And you have had that ability. And that was just something that could never be taught to you. Most people don't have that ability. They don't talk to people. They talk over people.
You and Leland taught me that, because Leland would always say, don't talk over people's head. Talk to them like, you used to always say, talk to them like they're Beavis and Butthead, right? Not in a mad manner, but talk at a pitch that people understand. Who was your mentor and who did you look up to when you was in radio?
Believe it or not, Richard Dixon.
Really? He's still in radio now. He's over at 99.
He is.
Yeah.
And it's funny because
I love Richard. Him and he's with Valerie, right?
Yeah.
They do the morning show.
He and I, we went to lunch together. He was originally my account executive when I did the very first program, Success Radio. And he looked at me and he said, Michael, the station's not going to hire you, because I tried to get on over there. This is an API, not 99.5.
Right.
It says, you just came too late to the party. I'm 40 years old. I didn't get hired full time at a radio station for 4 or 5 more years. And a big part of my motivation was when the program director of that other station told me I would never get on the air. Now, I've been Dixon's fill-in host up to this point also. I would never get on the air, which is why I was going to get on my knees in front of Laura Scott. And by the way,
Michael, don't say that anymore.
I'm
Don't
being
say that no more.
figurative.
Don't say that no more.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, but anyway.
Meanwhile, back in the land of sanity, right?
Exactly.
But that was a big motivator for me as well.
Really? Because Richard, me and him have talked a couple of times. And love him. Never had a chance to actually work with him, but does a great radio show. If you guys listen to him, Richard, him and Valerie does a great radio show in the mornings. I love what they're doing over there. So when you was doing this radio thing, right? Using radio, and you authored a book too. What made you want to write the book?
Huh?
What made you want to write that book?
I just wanted to write a book. My show is, one of the taglines I use is, there's a lot of history in the past. And I was doing some research on Rosa Parks for Black History Month. And I discovered a young lady by the name of Claudette Colvin. Claudette was actually the very first woman to refuse to give up her seat in Montgomery. It wasn't Rosa Parks. And I spoke to Claudette. She's still alive. She lives in New York. And I more or less found out that the whole story had been kind of, Claudette was 15. They thought she might be pregnant. It was very mouthy, was cussing at the cops since she got busted. And so the leaders of the Montgomery bus boycott did not want to use Claudette Colvin as the figurehead for the Mobile bus boycott. It got into my head. If that's not a 100% accurate story, what else is out there?
And you're a history buff too.
Mm-hmm. And I began finding stuff left and right that was just not true.
I'm listening to you, Mike, and I've never asked you this question before. I'm going to be silly here, but serious. Have you ever dated a black woman?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have.
You got the fever for the favor. You got the fever. You got the black fever.
Fever? No. And I'll tell you a little something. Because I work for Ox Foundations. And I've been there for years. I have an office mate of mine named Desiree.
Okay.
And Desiree is black.
Okay.
And she and I are glued at the hip. I can't do my job without her, and I love her to death.
Hey, Desiree.
And some months ago, I got called out to look at a property that a real estate agent was going to try to flip.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew who the agent was, and she's also black. And I took my phone out and I said, yeah, this is who I'm going to go meet. And she looked at her. She goes, oh, she's attractive. I said, no, Desiree, she's hot. And Desiree made some comment to the effect of, Michael, you're white. I went, honey, when it comes to good looking women, all y'all are is a little more tan. she looked at me like, oh my God, you were just such a lecherous pig. But, because, yeah, I don't make any distinctions.
Okay. So you'd be willing to date. I mean, you still now, if someone came along. You single now?
I am very single now.
Okay.
Somebody's on my radar. Okay. And right now, that's as far as, and she knows she's on my radar. And so I'm not forcing.
So the other one dumped you too?
Huh?
The other one dumped you too?
I haven't dumped.
Just asking, Mike,
Yeah. We'll talk off the air.
Because it's something about your personality that's so winning.
Yeah, well, let's just say I have options and I'm exploring them, but not with a lot of vim and vigor.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame my divorce on you.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know.
Because you're in radio.
Yeah, I'm just gonna blame it on you. It's because when I got the Michael Hart show, honestly, I became Joe Lockett. I was Joe Lockett before, but I became Joe Lockett.
Right.
The women, the people I did not cheat. You know that I was very serious about my wife, but the famosity of people wanting to be around me in the time and stuff, right, caused me a lot of problems, Mike.
Well,
it's your fault.
Thank you.
She divorced me because of you. But hey,
that's a soundbite I don't want out there.
But hold on, Michael. Your wife divorced you, and my ex-wife divorced me.
We weren't the only ones up there either. There's a couple of them that are up there right now that are no longer hitched up. And there's some drive time people. Yeah. But it's kind of funny because
that drive time will get you divorced. If you didn't drive time right there, you're gonna lose your wife.
Because I was on the air so long and I was so visible. How many
years were you on air?
Huh?
How many years were you on air?
I was 12 up there.
Okay.
And then did 2 other shows. A total almost 20 years.
Okay.
But people still recognize me from time to time out and about.
Especially their voice.
And people will say to me, aren't you Michael Hart? And my response to that is, well, I used to be, because the guy that was on the air that was talking to presidents and vice presidents and mayors and governors would get off the air and go drink beer with guys that hang drywall. There was the on-air version of me.
Yeah, but that was another Michael Hart too that ended up in jail a lot.
That was a different time.
What was those times? What were those stupors, Mike? Because I remember you telling me a few of those stories. How did you end up in jail, Mike? Once, just give me one story.
A couple of times, public fighting. Got a DWI once. I remember this was in a DUI. It was a DWI.
Mm-hmm.
After a particular Iron Bowl, me and a buddy of mine decided to go down to 4th Avenue North. We were 18 years old and harass the women that were walking on the street. And we happened to pick a cop. Yeah.
Glad you told that story.
Yeah.
That's the one I wanted you to tell.
Spent the night in a paddy wagon. Chained to it. Because the cops grabbed us.
Mm-hmm.
She looked at it. She gave us an out. Guys, I know y'all is goofing around. Y'all need to go. And we're like, yeah, whatever, baby. Next thing you know, freeze. And they're cuffing us. And turns out the guy I was with, his father was a Birmingham cop too. It didn't go over well. But anyway, the officers that are arresting us get a call, and they have to go. This is minor stuff. And they literally throw us in a paddy wagon. Those parked on 4th Avenue North. We spent the night there.
The one and only Michael Hart is in the building, y'all. I'm on Conference and Conversation with your boy. I want to ask you this, Michael, because right now radio has changed from radio to podcasting. Now a lot of people doing podcasts. I'm doing podcasting. We're on a podcast, and a lot of podcasters now don't have the journalistic or the in their podcast. What would you say right now? What makes a good story with, and these for people out there that's doing your podcast and doing things, you know, and want to learn some stuff, right? In your mind right now, what makes a good story? What made a great story for us? Because when you're delivering it on podcasting, you're just not delivering on a microphone. It's also visual.
Yeah.
So what makes a good story these days?
As far as the success of a podcast is concerned, I think a lot of it comes down to, niche markets, whether you're talking about cooking shows or fashion or whatever the case may be. If you want to do compelling talk like we're doing now, and I'm not saying this is compelling, I wouldn't paint myself that way. You're doing a great job. I think I stink. But we have a very interesting subject matter because you and I are discussing something that 99.9% of the people out there will never experience and never understand. And that is being behind a microphone and what that looks like. There are so many nuances to it. So I think a lot of the times the story is something which is just believable enough to be real, but also something which is compelling, but also something which is informative. Because a lot of people aren't going to know some of the things that we did in talk radio, dealing with the snowstorms and the tornadoes from 2017 that killed so many people, and 42 straight hours helping people find insulin in their children. And I think that stories that they've got to be touching, they've got to be cultural, they've got to be legitimate. That was one thing that you were always very good at, and I was always good at. I mean, my gosh, I just told you about my relationship situations, my police record, and all the other things that I've got going on in my life. And those are very personal items for me. But I decided when I got into radio myself, I would never lie to anybody on the air because there's too many people that know who I am. Because Michael Hart is my real name, and there's a lot of people on talk radio that cannot make that claim. There's a lot of people. There's people in Birmingham who had stage names. One or two still do. And I'm not even going to reveal that because it's disrespectful. But what you see is what you get. I'm the Michael Hart that had a process server show up at work and give him divorce papers in front of the entire staff. So when you're that real with people, because again, you're talking to them, you're talking with them, not over their head or at them. And that's a big part of it as well. So it's a matter of telling a story, but telling a story that you own. That's your personal story.
I got a couple more things I want to go with before you get out of here. What made you want to teach me your skill? Give me that information, the talent.
I think I just answered that question. And what I mean by that is I was fascinated by what I was learning, and you were an open book. You didn't bring an ego into the building. A lot of people think they really are something else. I don't think I'm something else because I'll tell you something. Pardon me. Years ago, I was a presentation skills coach, and this is before radio, and I taught people how to speak in public. I learned it through Toastmasters, and I taught a lot of people. I taught a lot of great speakers that are still in business. I taught a lot of great speakers how to speak, but I didn't tell them how to be great. I taught them how to speak and not throw up on a stage in front of an audience. They made themselves great. They took what I taught them and turned it into greatness in their own story. That wasn't me. That was them. Right. And yours very similar. And I saw that in you because I was so desperate because, as you are well aware, you can tell somebody how to do something. You can teach them how to do it, but you show them how to do it. Because I learned as much from you, brother, as you ever learned from me.
Oh, wow.
And I mean that very sincerely. And there are people that are on the radio today who I don't really have a lot of kind feelings for, but I still have to give them the credit for the things that they taught me as well.
Right.
And I was fascinated by you. You were friendly. You didn't bring an ego in the building any more than you already had as just being Joe Lockett. And you were open to being a radio. And the more I taught you, the more I learned. And there's just not a lot of people that it's just like the song, humble and kind. Wherever, I'm paraphrasing, but when you get where you're going to, turn around and pull the next guy along. You were my next guy.
Wow.
And you were my next guy because you were open to it.
Wow.
And there's a lot of people out there that taught me a lot. Lee Davis, Leland taught me, Dixon taught me. The person that I called first when Laura Scotty told me that I was going to get my own radio program was Matt Murphy.
Matt Murphy. He's not in this.
He's still in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So it's a very small fraternity. It's just like when you watch wrestling on TV. Years ago, there was a Channel 42 wrestling in Birmingham. Bearcat Brown and all these local guys, the Great Kaiser. And you see these guys on Channel 42 wrestling at night, just beating the living hell out of each other on TV. And then you'd go to the gym the next day and they're spotting each other.
Right.
That's the way radio is.
Yeah.
I would run into these guys all the time, and we'd almost laugh about it because there's the on-air personas and there's the off-air personas. And the off-air personas are oftentimes much more compelling.
I must say something here that my nephew that's producing the show now, he done heard me say 1,000 times. You say this to me all the time about politics. If you go to Washington, D.C., you go to a bar and you just seen two people sparring on TV, right? But you can go ahead and finish it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way it is. There's a lot of showmanship to the whole thing.
Right.
And they all know they need each other.
Right.
And I forgot the name of I think it's Bull Feathers or something like that up in D.C., where all these people you see beating living hell out of each other on TV, they're over there having cocktails at the end of the day because something else. And I know you've heard me say this a million times. It's not a matter of left versus right. It's a matter of us versus them. And if people understand that, there's a lot less division between the left and the right, because the things you want out of life are the exact same things I want out of life. It's just a matter of how we achieve those goals. And so we need to realize that there is a hierarchy in the world that doesn't care if you're black, doesn't care if I'm white, doesn't care if there's an old man sitting on a barrel at a Cracker Barrel. Those things, that's window dressing. That's show. What really happens is the things that happen in the halls that we're not privy to. And you and I both understood that, because at the end of the day, whether that's just seeing it in D.C. or you're seeing it in Montgomery, it's all a big show. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people in politics don't want to come on talk radio, especially shows like, if you remember Matt Murphy. Matt Murphy loved to make politicians cry.
He did.
He really did.
Yeah, because he's going to get to you.
Yeah, he was going to get you.
Yeah.
And so people really, really need to realize that we're not as far apart as we think we are. And I think when we really drill that home and drill down to it, it just makes a big difference in the world. Because at the end of the day, we all want to go home, be with our loved ones, raise our kids, worship our God, if that's your thing, and it is mine, and just live as best possible life as you possibly can.
You know, I'm sitting here, right, and I'm hearing a radio show as you're speaking, right? It's like, I remember these are the things that you used to say when we was on radio. I'm going to go here because we talk about radio quite a bit. We're both divorced. We're over 50.
60.
You over 60, I'm over 50. Damn. You over 60.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was trying to have a Kevin Hart moment there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you went to he with Don Cheetos and Don Cheetos told him his age and he was like, damn. And you just told me you were 60. So I was trying to have a Kevin Hart moment. Probably
well, it's kind of funny because I was talking to Laura Scotty a few days ago, and she's, by the way, had her first child, and we were talking and not asking about the baby, and she's said something about being in her mid 40s, and I'm like, Laura, you realize that you're in your mid to late 40s now. You were 19 years old when you hired me. She worked for Crawford,
for a
long time.
Yeah,
and was hired as a kid.
Yeah.
I used to think that was love child or something, but I was kidding. But and I accused her of that. But I mean, we've known each other that long.
He said that, Laura.
I did. I've said worse to them.
Well, yeah, you have, but anyway.
Conversations I've had with Gina Loudon and Laura Scotty, and
the conversations you have, period, Michael.
Yeah, it's strange in my head.
If people heard him off air, you think the stuff he says. One thing I say, you're one of the smartest guys that I know. But if I talk to you off air, you wouldn't know it. That's very. I mean, it's just very true. But I want to get back to the part of us being single. How hard is it for you in the dating world, being who you are, knowing the things that you know, but now you're off that platform, and do you expect to be treated like that guy that was on radio, Do you
Better.
get that kind of
better? I think there's an aspect of, first off, just so we're clear about something.
Sure.
I don't date. I have a couple of female friends. I have one in particular that I absolutely adore, that I go to ball games with and things like that.
You don't date.
I don't date in that sense because I was in a marriage for 25 years.
Okay.
That ended. A year later, I got into a relationship that I thought I was going to go the distance.
Mhm.
It ended after 12 years.
Mhm.
So I'm a little bit lovelorn over that. I've got offers, and they're not offers that I'm pursuing. I do have an interest in somebody who lives out of state.
But you don't date.
I don't date in that sense.
Okay, what is that sense, Michael?
I'm not in any kind of monogamous relationship. I'm not in any kissing and not telling relationships. I have female friends that I will.
So you just have friends, no friends with benefits, just friends.
Exactly.
People you hang out with.
Mhm.
Okay, that sounds like me. And we haven't even talked about it. Well, but yeah, we are brothers for because we're doing the exact same thing, Michael.
Yeah, I am.
Are we hurt from our past?
Are we what?
Are we hurt from our past?
I don't think so. I think in a lot
That
of
sounds good.
ways,
so.
I think it molds you. But there's being in the public eye the way we were puts a lot of pressure on a relationship. And it did on mine. It didn't cause my breakup, but it did on mine. But on the flip side of it, at the end of the day, you just want somebody that's going to respect you and be there for you and accept your flaws for all they are. Because the things about me that would make me not a good partner have nothing to do with the radio.
Okay.
I was somewhat of a hellion when I was younger, as you pointed out. I'm a Gemini, so I can be a little flighty. I can be a little moody. I can be whatever I am. But I've been in 2 very long-term relationships in my life. And like I said before, I have options as far as dating is concerned. I just choose not to exercise them at this point in time because, quite frankly, I don't want to get hurt again. Number one, I definitely don't want to hurt anybody again. And I'm working on my career, doing my job. I work an awful lot. I got a grandbaby on the way. I have a fantastic relationship with my children. I've got people like you in my life. And right now, I am working on becoming the best possible me I could become so that God finds me the right woman. Because I will tell you straight up, I gave it to him a long time ago. I went, hey, brother, or father in this case, it's on you. I'm not looking anymore. You got somebody you want me to have, better drop her right here because I'm not walking over there.
Are you planning on, are you open to marriage?
I don't know. I'm open to being, if I enter into another relationship, it will be monogamous. I just don't know
What that looks like.
Yeah, because I tell you something else to kind of where I'm coming from with that is when TC and I were together, we lived in the same house. To a degree, we shared. I paid all the bills. She paid the mortgage. We flowed as a married couple. Our kids were intermingled. We spent holidays with each other's kids. I was there for weddings, divorces, deaths. We were a married couple. There was a rock on our hand. We just never made it official. And then the state of Alabama comes along and says, hey, fax this piece of paper in and voila, you're married. So it kind of took the mistake out of it because we were already living as that type of a couple. And so in that regard, outside of it now being nothing more than a business relationship, and there's also a trend in this country where older people, yourself included, aren't marrying anymore as much as they're cohabitating and living as a married couple. So that might be on my radar.
And shout out to TC for putting up with you for 12 years.
Absolutely.
Yes, shout out. He's a great person.
I wasn't happy that relationship ended. I didn't want it to end. And things.
I'm finna say a joke. She came to her common senses after 12 years.
She might have. I wish she'd done it after 1. Would have made life a lot easier.
But you're so lovable, Michael. You're so lovable.
Yeah, my moments.
I was in my marriage for 10 years, married for 7, and she realized that I don't want this. And she walked, she served me my papers too. So it's okay. It takes about 10 to 12 years for people to, really not want to fool with us anymore. My part of it. But let me ask you this: are you a hopeless romantic?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Bad.
I could see you actually writing poems and stuff.
I have.
See,
I had a girlfriend when I was before I got married, and her name was Mindy. And when we broke up, I wrote a poem on her bathroom mirror.
Hold on, wait a minute. You wrote a poem when you broke up?
Yeah, it was my to-go poem because it got a heated argument. I saw that we were limited in time, and I wanted to say what I had to say. So I wrote the poem on her bathroom mirror and her lipstick.
The Michael Hart. That's what he does. You know, people don't write anymore.
No, they don't.
You know,
And I'll tell you something else too. And I told this to this young lady that I'm talking to, that might be a problem for her. I am chivalrous to a fault.
Meaning,
I'm a door opener.
That's fine.
No, I know a lot of women I think are intimidated by that, but I'm also highly protective. I'm not going to say I'm an alpha, but I'm kind of that way. You know, if you look at a woman that I'm involved with, that I have feelings for, look at her askance or say something to her, you're going to leave with a few less teeth. Because even, you know, I'm not as mean and tough as I once was, but I'll get my hand around that bottle right there and make sure it happens. And so, you know, a lot of women
such violence, such violence, Michael, such violence.
You would do it too, and you darn well know it.
Not like you
built like a Mack truck.
I don't have to do those things anymore, Michael.
Well, I don't either at the moment.
I don't be in those kind of situations, Michael.
I don't either at the moment.
So, so Michael, when we look for love right now, right, and you've been over 60, I'm being over 50. It's tough dating, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna ask you, then you can ask me. What are you looking for? I know you say you got someone that you're talking to, you're interested in, but what at 60 with a man that's accomplished, that got his life together, right? Because this is, I think, a lot of women will want to know, right? What do you look for in the essence of a woman? What do you want from her?
2 things.
Okay.
3 things. I prefer she be a woman of faith.
Okay.
I'm looking for some companionship, and she needs to be hot.
Okay. Okay.
No, serious. I'm being serious about that. Not so much on the hotness, but to all, you know, I've been honest with you, Joe, and you've known me a long time. I've never been one to struggle with finding a relationship when I wanted one.
You've always had a hot woman. TC is beautiful.
Yeah, she's a gorgeous woman.
Yes.
And you know, my ex-wife was most eligible bachelor.
I think I've maybe seen a picture of your first wife, but I've never met her.
Yeah, Becky. She was actually in Atlanta Magazine some years ago as the most eligible bachelorette in Atlanta.
But I saw your kids, and your
my
kids
daughters are drop dead gorgeous.
Yes. So I know, because your ugly ass, I know that they had to take after their mom.
They did.
Yes,
they did.
Yes.
So I've been blessed in that respect. But you know, I'm at that age now. I just want somebody to talk to, do things with. You know, I love being out in the water. I still like doing outdoors.
You live on a lake now, right?
Yeah, I live on the lake. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty romantic.
Yeah, you know, it's I'm there by myself, so it's only.
You ain't never invited me in up there.
I'd like to get out myself. I work so much. I can look out off my deck, and there's a almost 3-year-old gorgeous pontoon boat just sitting there going, "Hey." You know, I think this year I've been out.
I think he's embarrassed to have his black brother up there around his friends. That's what I think, y'all.
I'm on Facebook with you. What are you talking about?
So you got those are the 3 things. So you got to ask me the question now.
Well, what are they? I mean, what is it you're looking for? Because you haven't had any problems finding anybody.
I have a lot of problems.
No, you may be finding the right somebody,
but I have problems because I'm a problem. I'm the issue, Michael.
I guess we all are.
Number one, I'm hard-headed. I don't listen well.
I can see that.
I think the thing I'm looking for a woman over 50, number one, is I'm not into Build-A-Bear, meaning that she need to have her stuff together.
Oh, absolutely.
At this stage of my life, I'm not here to hold your hand.
You've raised your children.
Yes. So now for me, I'm more so looking for a woman who's looking for an asset in her life, not a support system.
Right.
Number 2, I want to find a woman that's already happy, and I can be her piece of happiness. I don't want to find a woman that I have to try to make happy. And I think number 3 is, for me, is I want a woman that can be my friend and actually loves me without any of this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Love the man. I don't know if I've ever been with someone that looked past this now, what I do and who I become, and love Joe Lockett besides my kids.
Well, see, that was a way that I was really blessed in my marriage. Was she took me for what I was and was always very supportive. I mean, you talk about my radio career getting in the middle of my marriage. Imagine having 2 at this time, young children at home, and being a seminar speaker that was in the airport 5 days a week. That's tough on a marriage.
Yeah.
And she also was an executive And matter of fact, when she was working full time, she flew so much of stuff. She had her own plane, and so her own pilot. His name was Oscar, because she didn't own the thing. Obviously, the company did, but we were constantly jet setting around.
Right.
But no matter what I wanted to do, when I told them, "Hey, honey, we're moving from Buckhead, a section of Atlanta, in this nice big house, and we're going to move to a little farm in Harpersville, Alabama, and live on a dirt road and raise goats and chickens," she looked at me and said, "All right," and we did for 10 years, 9 years.
Wow. I think, at this stage in our life, though, how was it for you? What was this? Because I know you and I, we rode on a high for a while, being in radio. What was it like when you came off?
I'm fortunate in that I was given a lot of advance notice. We were given almost 6 months advance notice. So we had an opportunity to clean up our act. And we had an opportunity to say the things we want to say. And we had an opportunity to go out on our own terms. And the very last song I ever played was a song called "Everything's Gonna Be All Right."
I was there today.
And if you remember James Cuppersmith, the producer, who I still speak to, I had a stupid tagline that I stole from somebody. I forgot what it was. And it was just simply, "And then there's that." And the song went,
say it again.
"And then there's that." And at the end of the show, James,
for a lot of people watching this show, I say that often.
Well,
I always tell them I stole that from you.
Well, that's fine. I stole it from somebody myself. But James played the song all the way, played the entire song, which, by the way, is against the law, because we didn't have copyrights to play the entire song.
But nobody was checking.
Nobody cared at that time.
And there was no AI to check.
He had me record it. The song ends, and the very last thing is, "And then there's that," fade to black. Andrew comes in and says, "Hey, Andrew McLean, do you want to go on the air on my show for a little while and say goodbyes?" I said, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
I went out on my own terms.
Yeah.
And that's how I did.
Yeah. So when you stepped off that platform of WYD 101.1, you're no longer the radio talk show Michael Hart anymore, right? What was that? When you walked home, woke up the next day, a week later?
It was weird, but the thing is I've been around enough that opportunities to be interviewed still presented themselves. Opportunities to fill in for other people from time to time still presented themselves. The House Studs radio program had gotten resurrected, so I was back on the air for a couple of hours a week, which was really kind of sad, because I was back in the exact same studio on the other side of the table, but and not talking about the things that I really wanted to talk about. So, but Jessica Borkland, said it the best way is, don't be sad that it's over, be glad that it ever happened. And I've always kind of glommed onto that. And if I was given the opportunity to go back into it today, would I? Probably not.
No, I wouldn't do it.
If I was given the opportunity to be syndicated and do it on my own terms, I'd consider it. But right now, I'm looking at 65. I've got a house. I've got my boat. I'm thinking about actually, when I retire in 2 or 3 years, moving down to the coast, and I've got my eye on a 58-foot Chris Craft Constellation down there that I would live on, and just kind of live out my years on the beach and play with my grandkids. And unless something happens with this other woman that I'm talking to, but she might, decide that's not where she wants to go. But right now, I'm content. I'm making good money. I love the people I work for. I love the company I work for. They take good care of me, and I try to return the favor. So I'm happy where I'm at. And then I have the opportunity. I'm going to be on the air with Jim Butters on another.
Okay, tell Jim I say hello. Tell Jim I say hello.
I definitely will. So I get enough microphone opportunities to where I'm still able to get it out.
Feed a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say this to you, Michael. Like I've said to you, and you get tired of hearing me saying it. I love you. Thank you for everything, my friend. I can't say that enough. You opened the door for me and allowed me to walk through to become and put that work in to become this guy that I am today. Well,
I will say that, I did open the door, but you're the one that walked through it.
Yeah. But those opportunities, like I told people before, I was telling my nephew, right? The door you opened for me, that door is closed now. That avenue how I got to where I am now, that avenue is gone. Right. I opened the door for him, what he's doing now, but the way it's going to look for him later on or somebody else is going to be different. The one thing I think people need to understand, that somebody's always going to open the door if you're willing to walk through it and they see that you put the work in. You got to put that work in, right? And so hopefully this conversation today help people, go down, me and you go down memory lane. But to understand that no matter who you are and know how you get there, understand how they got there. And we both had the story, right? Of what you did from moving from Baltimore to here with your family, going through marriage, being married over 20 some years in a 12-year relationship. Now look where you are, being in radio, being a spokesman, then all those different things. You got beautiful kids and all this other stuff now. But look at your life now. Right. And it's something to be marveled at. It's something to be grateful for. And the same thing for me. But I want people to see that, this here, the love, it exists in this world. Right. And you still can have conversations like this. Everything don't have to be about politics and gender and all those stuff.
Sure.
You can just have great friendships and have fun and love each other, man. And thank you for loving me for over the years and being my friend, man. I appreciate that.
The feeling's definitely mutual. And you and I were very unique in that we were able to meet each other where we were.
Yes.
And let it go at that, because, we're going to have differences, and that's okay. I'm going to have differences. I have differences with people at work. And, it's just a matter of, I saw something in you. I don't know what it was. I didn't have the right to see anything in you, but I'm very proud of what you've accomplished.
Thank you.
And frankly, to a degree, I'm a little proud of what I accomplished, because it was hard. I mean, I had to break in, and I had to, it's like you're treading water the whole damn time. And one of the things that I said, and I know you're getting tight on time,
No, you're fine.
was that being in talk radio, and this is probably a bad euphemism, but being in talk radio is almost like being madly in love with a woman that's just hell-bent on cheating on you. There's that constant friction, but you love her, you stay, but there's this price you have to pay that's dear.
I seen it differently. I saw radio as she would never cheat on me. And she always, when I turned the microphone on, she did whatever I told her to do.
Yeah, but see something else, and here's another difference between you and I. I was getting paid. And so I was accountable to the man.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of long sales meetings, client meetings, and things of that
I worked
nature.
for the radio station for about, I think, 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw my first paycheck. What the hell is this, gas money?
You know what they paid me when I started? An hour.
I don't know.
$7.50.
I don't know. I just know the first check they gave me after 1 month was $300.
Yeah.
And
imagine
I'm like,
driving from Chelsea back to Homewood to do a 4-hour radio show for $30.
and I was sitting there like, what do y'all guys want me to do with this? But I had to think about it, right? Even though all the time that you're putting in it, they're only paying you for that 1 hour that you're on radio.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the funny thing is, doing 2 or 3 hours is actually a little bit easier than doing one, because if you're good at what it is, you're good at what you're doing, 1 hour is barely enough time to get started.
But if you sit down for 1 hour, you're just sitting down. You know, if you know what you're doing right, 1 hour, you might well stay home. Do not do a 1 hour. If you're a season, anybody season, you don't want to do a 1 hour show because once you do the setup and you get into it, you take your first phone call, your show is over.
Well, 1 is too short, 4 is too long. And I got to play on both sides.
I got to play on both sides too. 3 is the magic. It's the cool spot.
I think so too.
Yeah, three. If you season, you want 3 hours. If you just want to cruise through it, do 2.
Yeah.
But that 3 hour, that's where I think it's for talk radio. You're able to get your points out. You're able to leave people with something, and then they'll come back tomorrow for something else.
Right.
And they love you. Yeah. But Michael, thanks so much for here. We're not gonna do 3 hours today. We're not doing that. We finna go together. You want to grab lunch afterwards?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, y'all. The one and only Michael Hart. I know, is your the Heart of America book still out there?
Yeah, that's the name of the book is Unknown America. It's
Unknown America. Okay.
Yeah, Unknown America, myths and little melodies about the greatest nation on earth. It's all the stuff in American history that's wrong. On Amazon.
Okay, so on Amazon, on the Michael Hart. Do you still do speaking engagements?
I do from time to time when I have the time.
Okay, so if you want people to find you,
they can find me right on Facebook. My phone number is on Facebook.
Okay,
so
all right. So if you want this guy to come speak, speak. Give him a call. All right, guys. You guys know how I feel about you, right? Thank you for hanging out with us today on Coffees and Conversations. I've got a very special show lined up for you guys next week. That's going to be a surprise of what Coffees and Conversations is going to look like. Today, also make sure you guys tune into LIM Network. There's a show that's coming on. Y'all know she's been out for a while, but the one on Denise is going to be doing her show from a new location. So you guys tune into the LIM Network or the Joe Liker Show on Facebook and LIM Network on YouTube. These have a great show lineup, so make sure you guys catch our new show coming up today. But y'all know how I feel about you, right? Make sure you guys enjoy your coffee and we'll see you guys next week. You know how I feel about you, and I keep saying it, but let me go ahead and repeat it. I love you.